Andy, what's going on?
Hello, thanks, Scott. Hey, Andy.
Hey, Steve. Hello, Scott. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Hello, regulars and new people alike. I can't believe it's another week, but it goes fast. Time for the Tuesday afternoon trade of the week, which is kind of predicated around the email that goes out every Monday. We'll talk about that and many more things coming up, but just a reminder, as the regulars slowly shuffle in to avoid these first slides, I'll just go over them for the rest of you. We are a software as a subscription company, and we're not registered investment advisors, which means basically everything you see and hear today, myself and Andy discuss, these are our opinions, and they're definitely not solicitations or any advice for financial matters that pertain to you personally. You got to seek out the right people for that and pay them a fee. So we're, I don't know, 15 years now deep in this Trade Ideas platform since the first version came out. We recognize that you can't really get a grip on this award-winning program in just a few days. I mean, it really does take a couple weeks, maybe a week or two, to kind of really get up to speed. We do our best with videos and live support, but mainly this slide is focused on that and the live trading room that Barry Anderson hosts every day, hundreds of people coming in there, learning and participating and asking questions about the Trade Ideas platform that Barry is demonstrating every day. He's very generous with his time in there. So, you know, that and a few people that take the lead and really hunt, the pack hunting mentality in there, a few people that are pretty good, like Real and Dusty and some other names that come to mind. It's a great service for free. I mean, there are chat rooms out there for 75, 80 bucks a month, and live trading room that Barry runs is free. You don't have to be a user, and it's a great way to just kind of get your feet wet and come on in and see what's going on. So it's a link on top of our website. You can find it and go through the registration process. It's pretty simple. Now beyond that, we've got the afternoon webinars. I did help Jamie in yesterday's Monday webinar, and today is the theme of the trade of the week. Tomorrow is when Dan and Brad usually pop in and kind of talk a lot about what's coming around the corner. Matter of fact, I think Dan does have a few items to talk about tomorrow. So if you want to hear about maybe some of the future ideas that is popping around in their head for the whole platform, or even just for AI Holly or auto trading alike, you can tune in tomorrow, the Wednesday webinar. And then Thursday, Andy pretty much encapsulates what happened on the day on Thursday with help from Jamie, going over his unique content on there. So afternoon webinars, just like we're doing now. And then Friday, we don't have any afternoon webinars, but we do have a 3-hour support session where anybody can come in and get live support, demonstrate on GoToWebinar, just like we're doing now, use the questions box to interact. We can show you things, but the content is really up to you guys on Friday, as opposed to this next screen. The TI University is our morning series of additional information that we're offering to help get people up to speed. 4 days of recurring courses that start again each Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By the time we get to Thursday, we're talking about advanced stuff, but the Monday, Tuesday is a real good refresher, not a refresher, but a engagement course to get you kind of engaged and understanding how to start using the system. So that's TI University, and it's for those that really like to jump ahead. We do have a pre-recorded version with all 4 playlists, I think, on all 4 videos on one playlist for those that like to get ahead of themselves. Otherwise, you can wait for the live versions and ask questions and get interactive help. So all that is a great way in which we try to concierge our users into a seamless knowledge of the learning curve of trade ideas. And then man and machine combined, that's always the theme for my webinar. That's the universe and the world with which we're going to be walking into. A lot of help from AI, software, in many different industries. And we are the humans that are there to curate the cream of the crop that the AI feeds us. So if you've got a son or daughter that's getting ready to go to college and major in something like finance or accounting, or they're just going to sit in front of or they think they're going to sit in front of a big spreadsheet and crunch numbers, I got news for you. They're going to be wiped out. Some of those industries are going to be taken over by AI, because that's what AI does. It looks at giant data sets and in a very short, efficient amount of time delivers us, the humans, a curated bit from which we can make decisions. So there's still a need for humans, but we're just on the decision-making side, letting the AI do all of the gathering and processing of large data sets. So people who sit in the towers in Manhattan and make 300 grand a year as financial analysts going over spreadsheets, I'd be a little worried if I were them about the future, what they're going to be in 5 years. So that ties together with trade ideas, and that's what we do here. We've got a platform that allows you to create your own technology or allow the AI module to sift through some ideas and give us some bigger picture items as well, which I'm going to try and hammer home on the Holly recap. So we'll go through the market as we usually do. It was a very interesting day. I have a lot to say. The recap of Holly, I have a few things to say before I hand it over to for Andy. We'll look at some more in-depth breakdowns. And then the trade of the week this week was Bank of America, which triggered quickly yesterday, and got some thoughts on that. And then kind of keeping in tune with what we've been doing the last couple weeks, a few weeks, we'll take a look at a sector glance and see if we can identify a few sectors that might be in play tomorrow. Looking kind of poised today. And we'll set some, we'll revisit the 7 alerts or so I sent with you guys home last week. I think they did decent. And then we'll set some new alerts after the craziness of today, which we'll go over right now. So let me grab my pen and we'll put it on this. Actually, no, I'm going to start with something else because I'm sure somebody's going to bring it up. You guys see this green tag up here? That is Apple after hours. Apple is now up here at these levels. And the market loves to follow Apple. So therefore, if we want to zoom into the NASDAQ, QQQ, it's no surprise that's up a little bit. Let's take a look here. Filling that gap nicely up there. So that's about where I'm going to draw these orange lines to where the aftermarkets are. And then the S&P. Okay, well, a lot happening in the S&P. And as we look at this new line here, after hours pricing, we're back at all-time highs in the S&P 500. That is really the story here. Yesterday I was speaking with Jamie. We didn't have today's candle. We had that candle there. And that first orange line basically corresponds with that prior high. And I kind of made the joke, not the joke, but the correlation between the movie. Andy, did you ever see the movie The Graduate?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, but yeah.
Jamie's answer was too. The ending was target achieved. Dustin Hoffman got the girl after all that, and then they got in the bus, and then they looked at each other like, now what? You know, and that's kind of where I felt the market was yesterday, because it got to that point. You know, we're either going to have a giant, biggest double top ever, or we're going to have a little congestion and move through it. But you know, nonetheless, that's trying to nail that candle. Anyway, yesterday we moved through it, and then we kind of came back down. So there really wasn't a whole lot of information yesterday other than, you know, target achieved. I've been saying for a few weeks now, the price action has been so close to coming back to touching these prior all-time highs that when price action is in the neighborhood, it's going to stop by and knock on the door. We just don't know if it's going to go around the street first or take a couple of left turns, but just a slow grind higher into today, which brings up a great point. So today we had another attempt at a sell-off, and quite honestly, I feel like a lot of maybe traders or short-term people out there might have been looking or feeling the same things I was feeling. Okay, target achieved. Now what? I mean, we want to go back on the sidelines and kind of see what happens. So, you know, intraday we have this pretty good sell-off. We had a gap down. I can't remember why the market was gapping down. There was a read. Oh, it's Google. Google had horrible earnings. So we're getting major cross currents here between Google and aftermarket today and Apple and the technology, two completely different stories. But back to our story in the S&P, a gap down and then a pretty big down whoosh. And boy, oh boy, where do you think that whoosh found support? The good old 10-period moving average, which I just keep talking about and trying to make examples of, either on the daily chart or on the 15-minute chart. It just seems to have a way of holding in the trend if that is in fact what the trend wants to do. And so, you know, there was a moment this morning where we had some nice downside volume, and there was some pretty good panic based on not panic, but some fear in because of the Google. But I think the market may have forgot that we had Apple earnings after market and came to their senses right at that 10-period moving average, just almost like clockwork. So what that's done is it's pushed us right back in. I mean, when we see those downward wicks, those selling wicks, bottoming tails, as Barry calls them sometimes, that's very much a symbol of a signal of power. There's still some power left in this thing, and I wouldn't be surprised. Well, we already have the follow through. I don't even need to say it. We're trading here at these green tags with help from Apple after hours back into all-time highs. So there is no resistance at these levels. It is what it is, and here we are. So I've been saying it for a few weeks, and I'll keep saying it. There's absolutely no bear case to be made here. Look at these moving averages all fanned out perfectly, one above the other, perfectly. So we'll see what happens going forward. I guess it's back to a buy the dip kind of a market. It's funny. So let's see. Had some more thoughts. So yeah, the NASDAQ, let's just look respectively here. NASDAQ obviously got belted last night because of the Google, but managed to close in a way which to me says no harm, no foul based on the gap opening that perfectly crossed doji. And then of course now the after hours gap is going to snap all the people's necks who didn't recognize this. You know, honestly, there was some short, trading going on today. I think some of the people I know, and it was very short lived. If you didn't take your profits quickly, you got reversed. And if you're one of those people that were trading short today and you didn't take your profits and you're like, well, I'm just going to see what happens tomorrow, you're going to get punished again, because this type of a wick at the close, that type of candle at the close, it's probably not going to be a lot of follow through to the downside the next day. Even more so in the Dow. Look at that bottoming tail. Bounced really hard off the 20-day moving average. This is the Dow. Still a bit lower than the all-time highs it had respectively last December, but creeping higher, and we'll probably get there at some point. It's trading a little higher after hours as well. And then of course the IWM, this thing has just been having a hard time grabbing any traction, because when we see it, there's still a lot of space between its all-time highs and where we currently are. So if tomorrow we have a nice broad-based rally and things start kicking again, maybe this is where the baton gets passed and the money managers start looking for some new upside alpha, because it's quite possible that could happen. Again, another big bottoming tail wick in that candle as well. So that's really all I got, I guess. I mean, back to all-time highs in the most significant benchmark that we're looking at, and let's just see what happens. Let's take a look quickly at what a weekly candle might look like. We can see again that big giant dip. Oh, look at this. I forgot to mention this sometimes. Now that we've gone to a weekly scale, look at what the 200-week moving average turns into. Isn't that interesting? Funny if anybody was on their toes back there. It's always hard when the heat of the moment is panic selling to jump in and say, hey, everybody, look at this. The weekly 200-day, 200 week average is coming into play. So, where do we go from here, guys? We are almost up 22% for the year. I mean, granted, we came into the year extremely oversold, but this is a giant move. Where are we going to go from here? And now that we've expended, I'm not calling for a pullback, but I'm just saying, on the weekly perspective here, those lines get pretty close together that we drew on the daily. Still could be healthy for something like that, but I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying it could happen. Anything you want to add, Andy?
Well, you would think, but and that's what I think we all prefer, but because nothing's worse than seeing the market go to all-time highs, and it's just doing it on basically so-so volume, and it's just kind of melting higher. I mean, it still looks great in the 401k, no doubt, but for us traders, we'd like a little more volatility, I should say. But
look at that declining weekly volume there.
Yeah. Look at that.
I mean, we're at these banner highs, but yeah.
I know. Look at that's what I'm talking about.
Is it just the people that are skimming 3% out of their checks that are leading to this, and the sellers are gone? I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
We'll see if volatility and volume comes back at some point. But for now, it's just a grind higher. All right. So, as promised, before I shift it over to Andy to talk about Holly, I do the 201 Trade Ideas University, and I get the privilege of explaining Holly, which usually takes 20 or 25 minutes, to explain Holly from scratch to somebody. And I'm always trying to find bigger picture value. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, is Holly all short today? Well, you better be paying attention to directional bias. If you're trying to go long, why are you fighting a statistically unemotional AI that's going short? That's our canary in the coal mine. Likewise to the long side, or maybe we have periods of risk on, nice broad-based rally, or a day where it's all risk off and you can't make heads or tails of the direction. Well, something kind of happened today that was interesting, and the only thing I could have done was grab a screenshot while it happened, and I was discussing it with Andy as well. I'm going to open this daily intraday up here. So here's our intraday, and I took this screenshot before I bring it up about, I think it was about 10:45 Eastern, about 7:45 my time, which is right about here. I'm going to circle that level right about there before that breakdown. And what we noticed was not necessarily a whole lot of confirmation, but a tug of war in a sense of directional bias. So let me bring up that screenshot that I took because it kind of worked out. So in the moment, in this screenshot, we noticed Holly 2.0 was giving us a directional bias of short, whereas Holly 1.0, Holly Grail, seemed to have had a directional bias of long coming into the 10:45 hour. And so I quickly look up here and say, well, who's winning the battle? You know, looked like Holly 1 was kind of underwater. The aggregate sum of the longs weren't really working out, and the aggregate sum of the Holly 2.0 were posting some green. But this in itself, you know, it's not enough to make a decision to trade. What is it a decision to make? The decision is to make is that there's no edge here for the moment. And I want to introduce something to you guys. It's one of the people ask about trading books, and I always forget this one, and this is a really good one. It's called The Art of War for Traders. This is ancient stuff here. Sun Tzu's Art of War, really fascinating book for generals and the way they used to fight wars, but somebody transposed this and created it for traders. And what came to mind here was one of the axioms in that book that I learned, and that was, you know, using the example of war. If you're a general and you've got your troops behind you and you come across two factions fighting, well, these two factions were fighting here. They weren't giving us any clear clue. But in the moment, the shorts were kind of winning. If we looked up here in the screenshot of the channel bar, we could see, okay, so maybe there was an edge for the most part, you know, to the short side. So if you're leaning long and you're wondering, God, am I on the right side here? This, I believe, is actionable information in the bigger sense, because what happened about 10 minutes after this screenshot? Well, we got that. We got this big downdraft right there. And then it found its support, as I showed you on the daily chart, and then bounced back up. But going into that, the whole morning, you know, the market was kind of feeling sick and needed to throw up a little bit, the dinner from last night. So Holly AI, in that moment that I screenshot and Andy and I were discussing, I thought I better save this screenshot because this could come back and be interesting. Now the day could have gone either way. We could have puked to lows and said, hey, you know, this was really keeping you out of trouble. But, you know, for the moment, it did, I believe, kind of give us a flavor of what was happening in the early part of the day. So whenever I try and see a bigger picture value to the AI, I want to try and communicate it to you guys. So that's what I wanted to talk about before I sent it over to Andy.
All right, yeah, good stuff, Steve. And that's true. I mean, we try to tell people there's a lot more to garner from the AI than just good trades. So let me pull my screen up here, and we'll take a look at Holly. You know, first of all, let's pull it up. You know, see what we got here in the spiders, and we did have a gap down, mainly because of Google's number. Wasn't a huge gap, but still a gap nonetheless. And then we had that move to the downside, and you saw where Holly 2.0, which by the way ended up doing pretty good today. The rest of them, Neo was so-so, 6 trades, only down 34 cents, and the Holly AI just didn't. She started out long, and I think she never recovered from that. But nonetheless, I think if you tallied it all together, the AI's finished up about $1. And there was some good opportunity today. Now, what I did like about Holly 2.0, if I put it on the entry time, is look how she started up. This was, I mean, she was able to do what a lot of humans aren't able to do, and that's basically change directions. She started out, look at all these shorts in the opening minutes when the market was selling off. And then what happened? We got our bounce back down here, and look what happened. Holly started going long. Could have been more directional bias, okay? You can see here in a span of about, oh gosh, look at this, 4 trades right here in a span of 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, were all longs after she had been going all short in the morning. So that's a very good directional buy, because what is that telling you? It's telling you the setups for the long side, even after this market got killed and just plow drived all morning. Wow, long strategies started setting up. There were new highs being made. There were taking out yesterday's high, whatever the strategy may be. The strategies were for the long side were setting up. So always love it when I see Holly able to change direction. And we'll go over a few trades here, but once again, guys, you can gather so much information, because think about it this way, guys. I mean, how many times if you're short and the market starts bouncing, you start looking for and this is not bad ideology. I mean, it's probably a wise trader who would look for opportunity to get short again. But if you see Holly taking all these long positions, you know, after being short all morning, you may want to step back and say, wait a minute, you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of longs that are setting up. So try to do that, guys. Try to you know, get more information out of Holly than just the pure trades. But speaking of the pure trades, let's see, you know, what worked this morning. I mean, there was some really good. Let's just go ahead and risk off. CPA was a beautiful one this morning. 10:30. This is one of those trades that came in after we had the move to the downside. Okay, what do you see here? If you are looking at Holly 2.0 and you see this alert at new highs after, like I said, that drumming this morning that the market took. Well, the first thing that stands out to me is, wow, this stock held up pretty well. It doesn't look all that great on the daily, but look what happened here. The stock opened up, even though the market shot down, this went the other direction, shot up and held its own through all that, you know, blood in the streets we saw in the first half of the day. It's what we call relative strength. And this is a stock that was up as the market was getting killed. And then, of course, you get your signal right close to highs, and it's what I call a no pain trade. This one pretty much moved higher all day without ever going below your entry price. Nicely, and look at that 10-period moving average. Once we entered it, never even at the close, could not even go below it. Kevin says the entry prices, exit, profit loss displayed to the public on the channel bar and the TL website are not derived from actual live or paper trades. No, these are not. No, Kevin, these are from the alerts. Okay, they take the alerts in real time, and these are the pure numbers. You're either down or up on the trade. Okay, there's no simulation of 100 shares being bought. This is just exact points. Hope that answers your question. Okay, see Carlos. Yeah, well, Carlos, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll open it up for questions this minute. We do have a number of configurations that we can show you. Right now, I'm going to finish up with Holly, but yes, we offer plenty of pre-configured alerts. As a matter of fact, in channel 4 down here, I can't click on it right now because I'll lose my screen, but there's about 34 of our favorite alerts in that you have access to immediately when you sign up for Trade Ideas. All right, thank you, Steve. Looks like he's getting the rest of the questions coming in. All right, so CPA was a nice trade, and look what we had here. We had our second one, most profitable one of the day was Robert Plant. Nice little fading strategy. I love the fading strategy. Sometimes these can be, you know, really great. This was in the morning, a stock that tried to bounce up. Holly knew the market was down, and this one was an opportunity to fade, and sure enough, faded it there. You could have actually gotten a little better price than this, but boy, a nice little trade, got out and on timed exit pretty much near the lows, so that was a good out on Holly. for a nice trade. NTR, this is pushing through resistance. All right, there's another kind of no pain trade. Okay, it pushed through resistance. Another one of those trades that went off after the market had started bouncing. Really no pain trade there. I'm not going to dissect, how you should trade it. I just like to point out the fact that, hey, you got the signal and there was really no pain. I mean, I can't tell you how hard that is. I mean, you guys know as traders to enter a day trade and that not ever experience any pain, it's not easy to do. All right, this was one of my favorite ones, even though the dollar amount, it wasn't all that great, but this is another fading strategy, topping formation. Once again, about an hour into the day when the market was continuing to sell off, this tried to go to highs. Holly said, no, I don't think so. And she faded the trade. I'm using the term like she's trading, but obviously, guys, these are just alerts. We're the ones who have the option to trade these. But look, a nice little fade. And once again, people argue all the time how you cannot get Holly prices. These fading strategies, sometimes, in most cases, I should say, you can get better prices. This is a great example. And look at that, went a little bit against you, only about probably 3 or 4 cents, and then rolled over nicely. And look at that all day long. Just even when the market bounced, this didn't. It followed that 10-period moving average all day. And doesn't look like a big move, but this is one of these trades that you could have loaded up. You can see over here on the daily chart, it doesn't have a lot of movement. It's been trading inside of $1 probably for the last, whole month. So this is one you could probably load up on pretty good and bang out some nice profits. All right, let's take a look at some of the losers. I don't like to just take a look at winners. This is one strategy, putting on the brakes. That really didn't work, but you can see here, barely got stopped out, and then it rolled back over and could have been a nice little trade. That's okay. We have our stop prices in here. You got to have stop prices. You can't just let them continue to go against them. This is one where, just it's unfortunate. She had the right idea. Hate to say early because honestly, she was wrong because she got stopped out, but nonetheless, you can see the unfortunate stop out in that trade. And how about this other stop hit? We'll look at one more from a strategy called Yesterday's Hammer. It looks at hammers. Yesterday, you had one on this day, and then you had another one, but really could not get anything going. You could see did not really work at all. The strategy went off, and you can see it was stopped out pretty quickly on that one. But Holly 2.0, 2.28, you can see in this example here where I have risk off would be $926. If you guys are looking at that, you say, what does that mean? I'm going to show you. All right, if you go to tools, and you go to options, you can look in here and you can choose your AI trade size. I have mine selected for $100 based on stop loss. So in other words, if I enter a trade and it goes to the stop, okay, the most I can lose is $100. That's why you see all these stop hits for $100. Can't lose any more than that. So risking $100 on every trade, if you would have been fortunate enough to only follow 2.0, I'm not saying this is what you should have done, because if it's tough when you have 3 different Hollies, but this would show you what you would have made had you taken every trade and of course got the same entry and exit. There's always going to be some slippage, and there's going to be some cases where you get better prices, but that's what that figure is based upon $100 stop loss. All right, Steve, I think that's about it. All in all, a ho-hum day, but it was once again kind of a tough market. The last couple of days have been great, the Holly, these 2 days right here. But boy, that was some nasty action this morning that threw off a lot of the strategies for sure.
Yep, every day is unique to itself.
Mm-hmm. Let me flip it over there to you.
All right, flip it. All right, guys, welcome back. So now we'll talk a little bit about the trade of the week, which was Bank of America. Excuse me. Frog in my throat. So, hey, perfect. I got it. I nailed it. This is what it looked like going into the weekend, and Andy will laugh because I pretty much told him Friday at the close. I think I know what the trade of the week is going to be. And then, as it were, Saturday, and looking at some scans, found it on a few of them that look interesting. But, you know, that's about as juicy as it gets. Chart porn right there for me, guys. That's about as good as it gets. Just beautiful sideways action. And by the way, we were also noticing the sector, financials and the banks were very good looking, very strong Thursday and Friday last week. And B of A was just kind of holding back a little bit. So it just had that launching pad look. And so it did show up on one of the scans, and wrote about it and said, this is a real simple one. It's look at the 10-period moving average once again. The hand that guides the price and moves it higher, that's the downside. If the price closes below that line, that's going to be our out. So very, very tight range to get in. We'll move forward here. And yesterday was a really nice open. I mean, I think it came within just, it gapped up a few cents, which brings up a good point. Let me go to pre-market, and we can look back to B of A pre-market here. Okay, so here's Monday morning. Here's the email comes out, you know, right about here. And it's saying, hey, watch this level here. And you notice, boom, we had a little push up. Well, matter of fact, guys, this is probably when the email came out right there. So it triggered pre-market, essentially. And it's not going to be the last time that happens, but at least when the price did open, it didn't really, you know, jump up here and make it a difficult decision for some people. It was pretty darn close. And so I would be, you know, kind of disappointed in somebody if they didn't look at that chart, that beautiful chart, and then, you know, look at the open. Oh, darn, it triggered, but it's only 5 cents above. Sometimes you just got to reach up and grab it. So I did want to talk about that. That's how the genesis of the trade was. So here's our little small gap on the regular session. G for gap. And wouldn't you know it, I mean, a really nice push higher. I think either the algorithms or other traders or whatever, they saw the same thing that we were seeing here on that Friday going in. I mean, that's just, it really is about as good as it gets. I can't stress enough how much I want people to imprint on this type of setup. Yeah, I figured that would be asked, and I'm happy to share. This is Andy's work. There's really not a great bull flag strategy because of the way in which Trade Ideas is built, but Andy kind of did some workarounds and created some filters, some filter sets that came up with something similar, and this was found. Let's go back. Let's look at our history. Historical on Friday, the 26th at 12:55 my time. What did this scan look like? I'll double click for sorting by, then there it is in alphabetical order. BAC was on this scan at the close, as were a lot of things. So I'll put this back in live always mode. And of course the question is, can I have a copy of this? And yes, you can. Anybody else that wants it. So I'll save it and share it before we forget. Drop it into the chat. It's Andy's bull flag scan, or as close as we can get to it. Still brings up some really good stuff, including our trade of the week, Bank of America. And again, my God, imprint on that chart right there. The moving average, it's like a bird in the hand, and it's just starting to take flight. You know, that's the way I always looked at it. All right, so where are we now? Okay, so market had a big upside push yesterday, and then it gave a lot of it back at the close. But look at where it pretty much bounced here on the open, within a penny of the original buy point. So the buy point is acting as we want it to be, meaning it's acting as a pivot point. Prior resistance now becomes current support. Would have been nicer to see maybe a little bounce like the rest of the market had today. So that's a bit discouraging, but all that's really happening, I think, was, you know, the semis were extremely strong all day. A lot of the rotation, I think, just kind of came out. I mean, like I said, coming into the week, last Thursday and Friday, the financials were really strong back in this level, in this area. But nothing really lasts forever. It's a constant game of rotation and passing the baton to the next sector. So I think what happened today was, you know, at least technically it survived the buy point pullback. So it's still in play, it's still intact. There's really no harm, no foul. It's just been a little bit messy up here. But the point still remains that rising 10-period moving average will act as our stop point. But it just might take a day or two before the financials and the banks maybe start to get back in favor. We'll take a look at sectors in a minute. Let's see, the last couple of ones we had. AMAT still kind of intact. What was the one we had last week, Andy? I'm drawing a blank.
Snaps.
Thank you, SMPS software. That one, the reason I wanted to show this was it's still very much in play. Came off of, let's see, this was our buy point, wasn't it? Coming off that buy point, 1, 2, 3,
Pull
4,
back
5.
to, I think, pull back to 50 SMA.
Yeah, it was a pull back to 50, but it was a buy above, I think, that level right there. Okay. This thing is still extremely very much in play. Look at that. There's another typical great example of the price action coming back and kissing our 10-period moving average and bouncing right off of that point. So if you're not looking at the bigger picture on the intraday sell-offs and then lining them up to where the daily charts look like, and you're not catching these, you're not seeing the big picture. So considering a nice close as well, if somebody's still holding this, I think there's much more meat on the bone, meaning this is an all-time high. So if this thing can sneak back above last week's trade of the week, can sneak back above this high, I mean, it might be after the races again for a couple of days. So still very much in play there the last few weeks, AMAT, Synopsys, and this week, of course, B of A. So that's good. They're not getting stopped out. They're grinding higher. The trick is to just find the right stock in the right sector and catch that right momentum rotation. And then when you do, sometimes it doesn't last longer than a day and a half. You get your money a day and a half and get out. Stick and move, pull back. Yeah, like that old Bugs Bunny cartoon with Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Daffy Duck, and he's got a spin parry thrust, sticks his finger in it. Anyway, I'm dating myself. So that's really it for the trade of the week in Bank of America. It's basically just kind of following what the market did, but hopefully maybe somebody caught a little bit of this yesterday and maybe took a little profit here and there. I think it was a 3 or 4% move. But, and then lastly, the target on BAC is pretty much 33, going back to these levels. I'm just going to use a round level. If it can get back above these levels, it may come back and challenge all-time highs. So that was kind of the theory of putting that up there. A lot of the indexes have returned back to their prior highs. There's no reason why maybe a couple of stocks can't do it either. Stewie. I think that's a reference, friend, to that cartoon I'm talking about. I just can't place it. All right, so that's it for the trade of the week segment. Let's see where we're going here. Don't forget, I'm serious. This is good stuff here. Sun Tzu, Art of War for Trading and Investing. All right, so sector glance. What we'll do now is we'll just take a look at the sectors and try and identify maybe 2 or 3, if there's that many even, and the ones that look poised maybe going into tomorrow. Semis, they just could not be shaken today. I mean, they were so strong all day. I think they definitely need to be watched. So I'm going to keep that nice pullback down here, grinding higher off the 20-day. The semis might be the one to grab. Well, by the way, AMD, I believe, did report some nice numbers after market. So there's a bit of a gap up in an AMD, a major semiconductor stock. I think they're in play tomorrow, I think. This is the technology spider. It's going to look very much like the Qs and everything else. So technology is still leading the way higher. iWire had a big move towards the end of the day. It had a big, nice recovery. That's the REITs. But on the bigger picture and the daily, it's not really showing me much. That's the airlines and bonds and healthcare running right smack into a possible selling pocket right there after a big bounce, declining moving average. Might have something to say about that one. Oil, pullback, bit of a bounce, kind of in no man's land, silver and gold. All right, I'm going to stop on this one for a second because I'm going to tie this all together, and you're going to like this, Andy. I promise. This is the agriculture ETF. Now, I'm not saying trade this. I'm just saying take a look at what's happening here in this agriculture ETF. This thing had a strong day. It's had a strong 3 days. It's actually kind of broken out and made a higher high and off of higher lows. So agriculture, interestingly enough, is trending higher. All right, we'll just back pocket that for a minute. Dow, again, we looked at that. It's a nice looking chart, really nice bottoming wick. The GDX is, I'm afraid, as the market goes higher, the the defensive trades like treasuries and gold gold miners are going to just kind of slowly wane away. And as you can see, the 10-period moving average also works on the downside just as well as it works on the upside. So not much going on there. Spiders we've seen. Gold will stay away from. Here's that software index, Synopsys. No reason for Synopsys to not be following that software index. And then here's the financials. So, you know, Thursday, Friday looking good, breaking out, kind of looked a lot like the Bank of America chart, similar, but consolidating up here. I wish BofA looked as solid as this did today, this candle. Nice recovery there. Interesting. Stay away from that. China stocks, gold, home builders. Home builders are kind of getting squeezed here, nothing in no man's land. Energy looks kind of ugly. Now we're getting into those banks. This is the more the B of A right here. The KBE index looks more similar. The broker dealers. Well, as markets go to all-time highs, guess what? People open up E-Trade accounts and Ameritrade accounts, so Schwab accounts. That's contributing to that. I don't know if there's a play to be had there, but they're strong. IWM bringing up the rear. Here's the regional banks, kind of struggling at the 200-day. Retail, and then I think biotech's dead in the water. Quite honestly, it's, you know, I try not to let macro news affect me, but the price action is kind of confirming what I already think. I think they're in for a tough slog, trying to get the prices that they want. Steel can't get out of its own way. And then we looked at solars last week. I remember we liked that solar index, but it's kind of can't get out of its own way there. And then oil services got real difficult. They got crushed today. So rehashing, semis look strong. Our XLF financial sectors really kind of staying in there. And the broker dealers are looking interesting as well as markets go to all-time high. Nothing really jumping off the page sector-wise except for that MOO ETF, and I'm going to tie that all together here in a minute. So the first thing we want to do is look at the price alerts that we set last week and kind of see what happened. And there was some alpha to be had from last week's ideas. If we go back and look at these individually, remember these were set 5 days ago. So, you know, if we get a nice move, as Andy said a minute ago, day and a half, stick and move, take your money and run. So a nice push on this Copart, 3 or 4 days of, well, there's a trigger, then a pullback, and then a real nice push. That one made some money. SMAR, just grinding higher, but nothing really special. PCG, I remember they gapped up that day, so that was a little bit trickier one, but still had some follow through after that gap. There was some meat on that bone. This one was definitely tricky. It triggered and then gave a pretty deep pullback, so that's difficult for that one. Here's our B of A trade of the week. Home, actually, we set that one last week. No, we didn't set that. This was an example I was using this morning. Sorry about that. Need to clear that one out of there. Okay, EIX also triggered and then just kind of came back and forth. So, and Ameritrade never triggered, but Ameritrade was interesting back here. It looks like they probably had earnings. Yep, and maybe with the IAA being as strong as it was, it can move forward. So, you know, a handful of these produced a little bit, and there was a little bit of back and forth on the rest. Let's see if we can add to it. I've got 5 ideas today, and I'll start with the one that I keep teasing about. So looking through some charts today, I noticed Holly, as well as that bull flag scan that I just handed out, they had a convergence. They were showing the same thing, and it's called NTR. And NTR was caught by Holly today, and it was also caught by the bull flag. So, I mean, when it comes out on 2 scans, that's getting kind of interesting. Let me illustrate what we're seeing here. Sloppily drawn. That's what I'm seeing. This candle today being the interesting candle. God, I can't draw. Make a left turn arrow. There we go. This is the interesting candle today, all right? Peeking out, popping out, doing something. All right, so I haven't quite tied it all together yet. What type of stock is NTR? Nitrous fertilizer. The MOO agriculture ETF is looking really interesting. So a lot of things kind of come together with this one. It seemed like a no-brainer. agriculture stock. Holly grabbed it and also showed up on that bull flag. So this will be our first one, and we'll just put it above today's highs at 35 cents. But when I see confirmation like that of the sector that I already like, it just is a little bit of extra piece of the puzzle for us. All right, so there's that one. I'm going to stay in the same vein because Holly caught another interesting stock today. CF. What's going on over here in CF? Here's the buy tag from earlier. Well, this thing's nestling up under the 200-day moving average. What kind of stock is this? Oh, nitrous and fertilizer. Interesting. So double confirmation of a possible sector. I think tomorrow we could be, and I mean, maybe before I finish, Andy can drop a couple other names. We'll look at a couple other names that we used to talk about in the agriculture sector and see if anything else looks good. But we're going to mark this one up as well. And I'm going to mark this above yesterday's high right there. So if it gets above yesterday's high at 45.36, we'll like it. Ag stock would be my notes for that one as well. And we'll make notes, remind people this one is also an ag stock. All right, now the next one I think was.
Take a look at the last 2-day moves in Archer Daniels too, the ADM. Yeah, of course.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
They had earnings though. However, there's
they had earnings, but so probably has a lot to do with that.
That MOO being so strong. Yeah. What was the other one? Potash we used to look at. Is that
Potash
still
got bought out. Mosaic.
Mosaic. That's the
bottom fish.
Interesting.
That one, yeah, doesn't look all that great. That's for sure.
But yeah, CF is looking okay, so we marked that one up as well.
CF, yeah, used to be the kind of the bellwether of those fertilizer stocks, but it also fell from grace. But
okay,
one to watch.
Right. Also on that bull flag, I like this one. I found this one. I love the gap up, which is earnings, I believe. No, actually, my mistake. Earnings is coming up in 10 days on this one. I have to keep that, but I really do like this gap up, a nice bull shape. And what forces the price action higher, everybody? The 10-period moving average is right there. So I think if this thing makes a new high, we'll go ahead and give it a whole new high. How far back can we go? Yeah, so it's in a bit of a downtrend, but if a new high comes through, it's above all its moving averages and may spook the shorts. So 92.01 is what we're going to do. Sometimes I call that a horseshoe. It gaps up, comes in to fill the gap, and then moves higher. The shorts that shorted up here realize they're wrong, and they have to cover. All right, moving on. Andy picked this one. He liked this one a few weeks ago. It was FLR, but didn't really do a whole lot. But now it's showing up on this pullback alert that I had. Called pullback to the 50, so it was close enough to the 50. But I like the run out after a couple of down days. Squeezed out a lot of the short hands who probably put their stop right down there below these candles, only to be stopped out pretty much down here towards the open, and then a nice recovery. So higher low, higher highs could be in the realm, and then when we back out, we can see the significance of these highs have become again the pivot line. What was prior resistance has now become hopefully support. So let's mark this one up.
Where'd you find that one?
Pull back to the 50.
Okay.
I'm going to use today's high, so a continuation through today's high, 94. I'm sorry, 86. All right, and I think NTR flare. We only have one more, and this one's going to be a little different. I picked this one before the market closed, and it's getting a little pop after hours because of that Xilinx news. Xilinx again, yeah, I'm sorry, because of the AMD news. AMD's gapping up a little bit after hours above the last 3 days. So this Xilinx is also a semiconductor stock, which we identified as been having a pretty good run as well. If there's any continuation, but I'm going to have to draw it above the aftermarket. We'll go 121.20. Again, there's going to be a known gap in there tomorrow, and it may even trigger later this afternoon, but big deep pullback on a stock that's probably oversold. Nice bottoming tail too as well there. So we'll just leave that as there. There we go. So that hasn't triggered, but could trigger in 7 cents. But that's the general idea. So let me get this out to everybody before anything changes here. And there's only 5 this week for the most part that I really felt comfortable giving out. So as usual, we'll share the alerts. People can use the cloud tool to receive the alerts, and we'll all get them at the same time if they happen to trigger. And there's the cloud code, which I did just drop into the chat window, not the questions window, but the chat window. And that's pretty much it. Take a minute or two for questions if we have one, and then we'll bring Scott in, and he's got some announcements and coupon codes for newer traders. Yes, earnings a couple days away. I thank you for reminding me of that. I did the same thing last weekend. I meant to catch it this weekend, and if you guys want to add that to the notes, it might be a good idea to edit the notes and remind yourself that in 2 days, so it'll be Thursday after market. I got 2 days for that flare. Thank you very much, Hal, for catching that. I did mean to catch that, and I blew it. Can you show the book cover again? Yes, highly recommended. Again, Sun Tzu's Art of War was a book written for generals long time ago, a couple thousand years ago. But a good, astute trader took the lessons from the Art of War and translated them into great scenarios of trading. I often say, what happens when these, when the price action gets up here to these levels? It's like, this was a pretty big march, man. These troops are freaking tired. These troops need a warm meal and a shower. And that's a whole chapter in the book. So price action sometimes can be like your troops. We need a pullback. That's where, Wally, you'll appreciate it. That's where I got that. Troops need a shower. Market needs a shower. Give them some rest. Give them a little strength to pull back that battering ram and try it again after a couple days rest. All right, so yeah, that was the book cover. Cool, you got that. Thank you, Hal, again for the earnings lookout. And I guess that's it. So thanks a lot. Okay, Hal, we'll look at one stock for Hal, PYX, then we'll bring Scott in. Even though Holly had a buy tag on it today, it saw something on the open that didn't follow through. I'm not so convinced on this one on the daily. I mean, it's had a really nice run. This flattening blue 50-day moving average just seems like an ominous ceiling. It could reach itself, but it's in no man's land between the nearest kind of moving averages, and it's had a couple days of movement. It could look for a troop fresh meal and a hot shower situation. So nothing really jumping off the page for me on that one there, Hal. All right, one more for Jeff, and then we'll definitely bring in Scott. STNE. Earnings are in 8 days. This one's kind of fallen from grace after a pretty good run. But that swing stop in there is a good, I think, technical level that shows us where the downside is. But this one's had a nice couple of days upward movement, and now it's running right smack into that declining moving average. That seems to be the range to me that this stock is going to be in now. Unless it proves me wrong, it's not trading higher after hours. What is this? Computer services. I just think it's going to run into a little bit of traffic here. We'll see what happens. It's not really, again, jumping off the page, anything noteworthy. All right, Scott, let me bring up the final slides and you can give them some information.
Yeah, that sounds good. So we do have our next test drive starting next week. Get ready for it by reserving your spot. Just under $9 for 5 full days of everything premium, including back testing, the AIs, auto trading. Just go ahead and go to tradeideas.com/test drive and reserve your spot and get ready. A little tip, if you sign up early, you will have it activated Friday after the close, so you could spend the weekend reviewing functionality and videos and practice so you're ready to go Monday morning to try all the premium features. We've also got a podcast. We have new episodes out almost weekly. Search for Trade Ideas Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Add it as a subscription. Get the next one. There's a book, an ebook. Both Steve and Jamie contributed chapters to. And Andy contributed chapters to. Just look for, go to trade-ideas.com/ebook, put in your email address to get the download link. It's got 5 strategies to help you win in a post-BTFD market. There's a code, good until this time next week. April Holly, all caps, saves you 15% off the first month or year of any subscription. or the Brokerage Plus module. You can also use that to do an upgrade. If you're on standard, want to do premium, just use that same code after you log into your account and select change account status or change subscription type. Follow Steve at Today Trader on Twitter, and we've also got at Trade Ideas. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is the Facebook page. Like us there so you can share stuff with your friends. Any questions, though, email info@trade-ideas.com. That's the most efficient way to get a quick answer. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Andy.
All right. See you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you Thursday.